Yeah, start. So, today the topic for discussion is approach to renal function tests. Before we start renal function tests, you should be able to evaluate the renal failure, which can be of two types: acute renal failure and chronic renal failure. The definition of acute renal failure is rapid deterioration of the renal function over a period of hours or days and is usually associated by oliguria or anuria, which can be reversible over a period of days or weeks, and it is a medical emergency. Whereas chronic renal failure is progressive decline in glomerular filtration rate over 3 months to years, and there is irreversible reduction in nephrons. In acute renal failure, there is azotemia, that is accumulation of nitrogenous wastes, where you have BUN and serum creatinine levels are increased. Whereas in uremia, there is azotemia, that is biochemical abnormality in the form of increased BUN and serum creatinine with signs symptoms of renal failure. In acute renal failure, there is oliguria supports the diagnosis of acute renal failure. There is oliguria, which is defined as less than 500 ml of urine output in 24 hours, anuria less than 50 ml of urine output in 24 hours. And acute renal failure is associated with a lot of electrolyte and acid base abnormalities, where you can see here there is increased potassium, hydrogen and phosphate, urea, creatine, magnesium and urate, whereas there is decrease in sodium, bicarbonate and calcium. In chronic renal failure, there is association of metabolic and endocrine abnormalities seen in the form of anemia, malnutrition, in change in the plasma levels of parathyroid hormone, and associated with secondary systemic involvement like renal osteodystrophy, uremic gastroenteritis, fibrinous pericarditis, peripheral neuropathy and dermatological involvement. The clue to always there is underlying chronic disease present in the patients of chronic renal failure, where you may see a history of diabetes mellitus, hypertension, the age factor, elderly age, and some vascular disease also is prevalent. The urinic symptoms like fatigue, nausea, anorexia, pruritus, altered taste, sensations, hiccups are also very important clues indicating chronic renal failure. And on radiological examination, you get a small echogenic kidney. And the most important thing is the previous records are always available of those patients who are diagnosed as chronic renal failure. Now, in renal failure, acute renal failure, there are of three types: pre-renal, renal and post-renal. In pre-renal, the most important is the most commonest cause of acute renal failure, and also it is usually secondary to hypovolemia, where there is hemorrhage, diarrhea, vomiting leading to hypovolemic states. Then there is altered hemodynamics with low cardiac output, systemic vasodilation, sepsis, renal vasoconstriction and hepatorenal syndrome. The intrinsic renal causes of acute renal failure is ATN, acute tubular necrosis caused by ischemia, infection, toxin like exogenous radiocontrast, chemotherapy, ethylene glycol, and endogenous like rhabdomyolysis and hemolysis. And there is also renovascular obstruction, diseases of glomeruli and intratubular obstruction are other intrinsic renal causes. The post-renal causes is usually associated with obstruction either in the ureter, bladder or urethral obstruction. The chronic renal failure is classified based on the GFR, that is glomerular filtration rate, which the normal GFR is 120 ml per minute per 1.73 meter square of the body square area, which is usually attained in third decade, and there is annual decline of 1 ml per minute per 1.73 meter square, reaching the mean value of 70 ml per minute at 70 years of age. So based on this normal value, they are staged as stage 0, where the GFR is greater than 90 ml per minute, and stage 1 is greater or equal to 90 ml per minute with underlying proteinuria or normal urine or blood chemistry and imaging studies. Stage 2 is your 60 to 89 ml per minute GFR, and stage 3 is 30 to 59 GFR, which is 30 to 59 ml per minute, whereas stage 4 the GFR is 15 to 29 ml per minute, and stage 5 is less than 15 ml per minute. Now the chronic renal failure corresponds to stage 3 to 5, whereas end stage renal disease is your stage 5, where the GFR is less than 15 ml per minute. The investigation related to acute renal failure is first to diagnose there is acute renal failure, and second important investigation pattern is to diagnose the etiology of the acute renal failure, whether it is pre-renal, renal or post-renal. So let us go with this approach and solve the cases. To diagnose acute renal failure, as you know, the patient presents with acute kidney injury, where you have diagnosed based on your increased BUN and serum creatinine. The normal values of BUN is 5 to 20 milligrams per DL, and serum creatinine is 0.8 to 1.2 milligram per DL. So you take the history and do physical examination. In history, you come to know the patient has oliguria. So if the patient has oliguria, as I said, it is an important clue or supports the diagnosis of your acute renal failure, apart from increase in your BUN and serum creatinine. So if there is acute oliguria, then you measure urinary, serum, sodium, creatinine values and osmolality. So when you investigate this, when you do urine osmolality, urinary sodium, and these have to be done to diagnose the etiology or cause of acute renal failure. On the right hand side is the normal values of these parameters in serum and in the urine. So if you can see, the normal osmolality in serum is 275 to 295 milliosmoles per kg water, whereas in urine it is 50 to 1200 milliosmoles per kg water, and usually in urine it is 3 times than you see in the serum. In serum, the sodium is 135 to 145 milliequivalents equivalent per liter, whereas in urine the sodium level is 40 to 220 equivalents per day. Now coming to the actual parameters, the specific gravity is greater than 1020, and FeNA is, fractional excretion of the sodium is less than 1%. Urinary osmolality is greater than 500 milliosmoles per liter of H2O. So urinary sodium is less than 20 milliequivalents per liter, and BUN and plasma creatinine ratio is greater than 20, and urine creatinine and plasma creatinine ratio is greater than 40. Then these parameters, when you get, indicates pre-renal azotemia. Whereas intrinsic renal causes, the parameters you find is a specific gravity less than 1010, FeNA, that is fractional excretion of sodium, is greater than 1%, urinary osmolality is less than 350 milliosmoles, and urinary sodium is greater than 40 milliequivalents per liter. BUN and plasma creatinine ratio is less than 10 to 15 is to 1. Urine creatinine and plasma creatinine ratio is less than 40. So these parameters indicate acute tubular necrosis, which is an important morphology seen in intrinsic renal causes of acute renal failure. This is again just to re-emphasize the some parameters in a tabular form given here. But here I want you to pay attention to the urinary sediment which you get in urine analysis. Is very bland or non-specific. No changes are observed in pre-renal azotemia, whereas in intrinsic renal causes or in ATN you may see a lot of muddy and opaque urine sample with presence of brown granular casts. So now, as you have seen, why it is important to find out the differentiate between pre-renal, renal, post-renal. As you know, the pre-renal is because of volume depletion. The treatment also varies. The treatment in case of pre-renal, if it's because of volume depletion, you have to administer saline, and whereas if it is because of congestive cardiac failure, you administer diuretics. In acute tubular necrosis of the renal causes, then you eliminate the underlying nephrotoxins which has given rise to acute tubular necrosis and treat the underlying disorders. In cases of post-renal, as already informed, the major etiology of post-renal causes is usually secondary to obstruction seen in urethra or in the form of stone or tumor. Then there could be underlying hydronephrosis which can be observed by ultrasonography, and the treatment there is you have to relieve the obstruction. Since the treatment varies in the various etiology of acute renal failure, you have to diagnose the etiology of ARF is very important from the therapeutic point of view. Now coming to the pathophysiology of these parameters which we have just enumerated to differentiate between different etiology of ARF. Specific gravity, as you all do in the urine examination, urinometer, you fill the vessel with 3/4 of the urine, minimum 15 ml is required. So the urinometer is inserted with your touching the side or bottom, and the lower meniscus is read. And you can do it by the reagent strip also, apart from urinometer, refractometer, where only 1 drop of urine is required. Then coming to the osmolarity of the urine and serum, where you do simultaneous determination of the osmolarity of serum and urine is a more accurate way of measuring the concentrating ability of the tubule. The normal ratio of urine to serum osmolarity is 3 or more. And you measure this osmolarity by osmometer, which is based on the colligative property, which depends on the number of particles in solution and not on the nature of these particles. So the 3 types of measurement depending on freezing point, vapor pressure and colloidal osmometer, which you all are aware of in your biology done in your chemistry in your 12th standard. Now use of urinary sodium in acute kidney injury is, as you know, whenever BUN and serum creatinine concentration rise acutely, it can be because of your renal underperfusion, that is pre-renal azotemia, where there is low GFR and low filtered sodium load. So the intact tubules will avidly reabsorb the filtered sodium. That's why the urinary sodium is less than 20 milliequivalents per liter. Whereas in intrinsic causes acute tubular necrosis, the tubules function very poor and they cannot reabsorb sodium. That's why the urinary sodium is greater than 20 milliequivalents per liter. Now coming to the BUN and serum creatinine ratio, normally the ratio observed is 14 to 24. In the retention of urine due to pre-renal causes, it can go up to 40. And it is because in pre-renal, the BUN serum creatinine, the ratio is greater than 20, as I said, it can go up to 40, is because the reduced blood flow equally decreases both BUN and serum creatinine filtration at the glomerulus. However, the urea reabsorption in distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct increases, and as they have more longer time to work on slower moving fluid. Therefore, both the values rise. Both BUN rises more faster than the creatinine. That's why increasing their ratio. And additional findings already noted in pre-renal etiology or pre-renal pathology is urinary sodium is less than 20 milliequivalents per liter, and FENA, that is fractional excretion of sodium, is less than 1%. Now, the fractional excretion is the quantity of substances excreted in urine expressed as a fraction of filtered load of same substance. So this is the ratio of it. This is how you calculate urine sodium into serum creatinine divided by serum sodium in multiplied by urine creatinine ratio into 100. As I said, less than 1% is pre-renal and greater than 1% or greater than 2% is goes in favor of your acute tubular necrosis. And this is very important to distinguish between pre-renal and renal azotemia. Now there can be second possibility, the patient has oliguria as we have already seen, when the patient has oliguria, how we differentiate, it goes in ARF, and what do you do? But it may so happen the patient does not have oliguria, but he has increase in BUN and serum creatinine. Then what do you do? Then you perform USG, radiological examination of the kidney, abdominal. So you may find four possibilities: normal sized kidney, which indicates there is a bilateral renal parenchymal disease of the kidney, or there could be hydronephrosis due to obstruction, or stones can be seen. Third possibility is that both the kidneys are bilaterally very small, so it indicates chronic renal failure, where again you can get increase in BUN and serum creatinine, and there may not be oliguria. Then fourth possibility is that also you can detect renal mass. So when you get a normal sized kidneys, as I said, it indicates there is parenchymal disease. Then you perform urine analysis. Now the urine analysis, what do you do in urine analysis? There is physical parameters, chemical and microscopy. In physical parameter, you look at the volume, color, appearance, sediment, odor, and specific gravity. In chemical, you look at the proteins, evaluate glucose, ketone bodies, occult blood, either by the chemical methods, or you can do by dipstick method. And microscopy, under microscopy you look for presence of pus cells, epithelial cells, RBCs, presence of casts or yeast or bacteria. So there are two possibilities, as I said. Urine analysis, when you do, there is the normal parameter, there is no abnormality detected, and that is usually seen in your pre-renal azotemia. Whereas abnormal morphology in the urine analysis, on the gross examination and on the microscopic examination and on the physical parameters, indicates when you get abnormal urine analysis, these are the possibilities. You can get pus cells, bacteria indicating pyelonephritis, you can get WBC casts, eosinophils indicating interstitial nephritis, or RBCs and proteinuria, and you can get muddy brown casts or amorphous sediment, which again indicates presence of your acute tubular necrosis, that is intrinsic renal causes. And also the interstitial nephritis also is another important cause of your acute tubular necrosis, intrinsic renal causes. When you get proteinuria in the urine analysis, again you have to differentiate whether it is nephrotic or nephritic syndrome. Nephrotic is greater than 3 grams of proteins per 24 hours of urine, and less than 3 grams is your nephritic syndrome. So if you get nephrotic syndrome, then you have to do renal biopsy to evaluate the intrinsic glomerular disease, or there could be some vasculitis diseases, or immune complex glomerular anti-glomerular basement membrane disease, or crescentic glomerular nephritis can be seen. So this is another format, that clinical opportunity encapsulated in one diagram, where you can see the pre-renal causes, presence having oliguria. If the patient doesn't have oliguria, you do USG, and how you do perform urine analysis and get the following results, and accordingly you diagnose the patient and treat accordingly. So whatever you get, etiology, eventually you have to, the treatment is supportive management, where you can get resolution of renal insufficiency. But if there is no resolution happening, it is the patient is unresponsive, there is volume overload, acidosis or hyperkalemia, and there are signs symptoms of uremia, and BUN is greater than 100 milligrams per DL, then you may have to perform renal replacement therapy, also known as dialysis. There are two types of dialysis, so will not. Now coming to the actual cases which we kept for you all. Case 1, a 15-year-old male had complaints of fever and oliguria. Past history of sore throat 10 days back. Blood pressure was 140 by 90 millimeters of mercury. On urine examination, the grossly it was red, smoky, turbid. Protein was 2+, done by the chemical method. Benzidine test was positive, that means indicates there could be presence of RBCs. Microscopy revealed RBC, which was 3+. WBC was 4 to 6 per HiPA field. RBC casts were also present. Blood urea was 75 milligram %, and serum creatinine was 3.5. So now interpret and give the diagnosis with justification. So let us solve this case. As you have seen, clinically the patient has fever and oliguria. Grossly the urine is red smoky, so there is abnormal urine analysis. And blood urea and serum creatinine are definitely raised. So you look at the ratio, do the ratio. When the normal ratio, when you see it is less than 20:1, and when you divide 60 divided by 4.5, you get 13.33. Sorry for the typographical mistake, it is 60 milligram and 4.5, it is 13.33. So it is since the ratio is less than 20:1, it is acute renal failure due to intrinsic renal causes, and there is abnormal urine analysis. So as you know, whenever there is abnormal urine analysis, you have to look what are the constituents which are seen, as we have already seen this. So here, where does this fit into? Now the diagnosis of this particular case is acute post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis or acute glomerulonephritis, which is defined as sudden onset of hematuria, proteinuria and red cell casts in the urine. This is the clinical picture accompanied by hypertension and edema and azotemia. So the post-streptococcal, there was a history elicited, like history of sore throat preceded the onset of the renal symptoms, and the age also was a young boy. And the patient ka proteinuria was 2+, and the urine grossly also was benzodine test was also positive. So all this history goes in favor of acute nephritic syndrome. Patient did have hypertension. So what is acute nephritic syndrome? It is caused by immune response triggered by infection or other disease. Common causes in children and adolescents include hemolytic uremic syndrome, Henoch-Schönlein purpura, IgA nephropathy, and post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Here our patient did have increased BUN serum creatinine. So what that is the definition of azotemia. So azotemia is a biochemical abnormalities with increase in BUN and serum creatinine. Whereas you have to be able to differentiate azotemia from uremia, because even in uremia you do get increase in BUN and serum creatinine, but it is associated with clinical signs and symptoms of renal failure where the whole system is involved along with the metabolic and endocrinological abnormalities observed. Coming to the case 2. Okay. In case 2, we have a 20-year-old male operated for bone tumor. In post-operative period, there was decreased renal output. Grossly, the volume was 300 ml per day. Protein was 1+. Microscopy showed granular cast and epithelial casts. Blood urea was 110 mg/cent. Serum creatinine was 5. Now interpret. So already the patient has oliguria. Per day it is written, so it is less than 500 ml per day. And again you have BUN and serum creatinine. Take the ratio. When you see the ratio, it is definitely above 110 divided by 5. The ratio is above 20:1. So this goes in favor of your pre-renal etiology. So acute renal failure because there is increased BUN serum creatinine and there is oliguria, and it is pre-renal because the ratio of BUN serum creatinine is greater than 20:1. So acute renal failure happens when the kidneys suddenly lose the ability to eliminate excess salt, fluids and waste materials from the blood. As you know, the elimination is the core function of the kidney, and the body fluids can rise to a dangerous levels and the kidneys lose their filtering capacity. So as we already know what are the causes of acute renal failure, so pre-renal cause, renal and post-renal. In pre-renal, as I said, pre-renal acute injury is the most commonest type of acute injury, and it is secondary to your dehydration, hypovolemic states, hemorrhage, injury, septic shock and low blood pressure. So in this case, case number 2, what do you think could have given rise to pre-renal? In the post-operative period, there was a decreased renal output. So there could have been in the operation or during post operation, there could have been some amount of bleeding happening, or some amount of hypovolemia must have happened, some amount of hemorrhage must have happened, and that could have been the causative factor for your acute renal failure. Coming into the pre-renal etiology. Coming to the case 3, you have a 6-year-old male presented with puffiness of face and generalized edema. Grossly, the urine was cloudy, protein was 4+, benzidine test is negative. So benzidine test negative indicates there are no RBCs. Even under microscopy, no RBC was seen. Occasional WBC, fat droplets and fatty casts were seen. Serum protein was 3 g/%, serum albumin 1.8, and serum cholesterol 300 milligrams. So interpret, give the diagnosis with justification. As you can see, the patient has the normal range of total protein 6 to 8 grams per dl. Serum albumin is 3.3 to 4.8 grams per dl, but here you can see it is, very low. Serum proteins is 3 grams and serum albumin is 1.8, it is low, and serum cholesterol is high, increased. And there is abnormal urine analysis. As you can see, grossly it is cloudy, protein is 4+, and there are fatty casts. And there is generalized edema seen, which indicates anasarca. So coming to that same chart, there is abnormal urine analysis, and here what did we see? Protein was 4+, proteinuria, and there were no RBC casts, only proteinuria was there. So what is ideally to be done? You have to undergo renal biopsy to diagnose the cause of, and if you see the proteinuria was 4+, there is hypercholesterolemia, hypoalbuminemia, so it is actually a nephrotic syndrome. Then to know the etiology of nephrotic syndrome, you do renal biopsy to find out whether it is secondary to minimal change disease or focal segmental glomerulosclerosis or any other immune complex mediated glomerular disease. So the diagnosis, as I said, is nephrotic syndrome because of hypoalbuminemia, marked proteinuria, 24 hours proteinuria greater than 3.5 grams, and gross proteinuria is 4+. There is hypercholesterolemia, anasarca, which was observed as a generalized edema. The oval fat bodies in urine indicate massive proteinuria. Mention 2 causes of nephrotic syndrome. You can mention minimal change disease and focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, which is common in children. What is minimal change disease? Minimal change disease is also known as lipoid nephrosis or nil disease, because microscopically you will see normal glomeruli, and it arises from the histopathologic lesion in the glomerulus, and it is characterized by intense proteinuria leading to edema and intravascular volume depletion. It is the most common single form of nephrotic syndrome in children, and it can also occur in adults. Light microscopy, you will see normal or nil changes seen. The diagnostic feature seen on electron microscopy is the flattening of podocytes. Now the next case is case number 4. 25-year-old complains with right flank pain, fever with chills, and increased frequency of micturition dysuria. On examination, there was tenderness in the right costovertebral angle. Grossly, the urine was turbid. Specific gravity was 1.035, pH was 7.5, protein was 2+, and benzidine test was positive. Microscopy, numerous pus cells, WBC casts, granular casts, bacteria, RBCs were seen, and blood urea was 70 mg%, which was increased. Interpret, give the diagnosis. So when you look at this particular angle, we can see definitely there is abnormal urine analysis, which can be observed grossly as being turbid. Chemical test proteins plus, and numerous pus cells, WBC casts, granular casts, bacteria seen in microscopy. And clinically, the patient has tenderness, so an increased frequency of micturition, and along associated with fever. So again, coming to the same chart, when you do urine analysis, as you saw, there was abnormal urine analysis, there was pus cells and bacteria. So are we dealing with pyelonephritis? So the diagnosis, it goes in favor of acute pyelonephritis, and acute pyelonephritis results from bacterial invasion of the renal parenchyma. Bacteria usually reach the kidney by ascending from the lower urinary tract. Bacteria may also reach the kidney via the bloodstream. The classical presentation is patients with acute pyelonephritis. They come with fever, costovertebral angle pain. The pain may be mild, moderate or severe, and usually you may get tenderness seen over the involved kidney. The diagnosis is usually suggested by patient's history, physical examination and supported by urine analysis results. Urine culture is very important and it is indicated in any patient with pyelonephritis, whether treated in an inpatient or outpatient setting. Because of the possibility of antibiotic resistance, you have to decide which antibiotic to be given. So for that urine culture, you have to collect the urine samples by following methods like clean catch method, urethral catheterization or suprapubic needle aspiration can be done. Now, since you have observed in few cases above, there were a lot of casts were seen, WBC or RBC cast was seen. So you have to know what is the definition of casts, what is its significance and what are the different types of casts. So the casts are the rectangular having a parallel edges which with a matrix present of Tom Hirschfeld protein which is seen in the collecting tubules of the kidney. So because the casts are formed in the kidney, it indicates the etiology of the disease could be in the upper urinary tract. So it differentiates between the pathology of between upper urinary tract and lower urinary tract. Suppose you may get RBCs, so the RBCs could be from hematuria due to bladder causes, but if you get RBCs along with RBC cast, it indicates there is hematuria is because of the upper glomerular disease or upper urinary tract. That means the kidney is involved, not the bladder. Different types of casts can be cellular cast, epithelial cast, hyaline cast, granular cast, WBC cast, RBC cast. So you have to enumerate. The last case is 50-year-old male, complaint of passing red colored urine, flank pain, weight loss is there. Patient is hypertensive and having a palpable abdominal mass, grossly reddish yellow urine, hazy urine which is reddish yellow color, protein 1+ and benzodine test was positive. So the passing of red color urine and benzodine test positive indicates possibly there is RBCs, and which also confirmed microscopically where the RBCs was seen 8 to 10 per high power field and WBCs was 6 to 8 per high power field and PCV was 60%. So the very relevant points here is the patient is hypertensive, palpable abdominal mass and there is abnormal urine analysis, benzodine test is positive. Now with this, again as I said, when the patient has no oliguria, patient has just hematuria. So when you perform renal ultrasonography, the fourth possibility which we saw was that there could be a renal mass detected in the patient, and plus the patient had a flank pain, associated weight loss and he was hypertensive. So your probable diagnosis is renal cell carcinoma. And what is the investigation used for the confirmation? As I said, the radiological studies, the USG will show the mass in the kidney which can be present either upper pole, lower pole or mid pole. What is the classic diagnostic triad of RCC? Hematuria, flank pain and palpable abdominal mass which was present in this particular case. What are the other presentation of renal cell carcinoma? Hematuria is the most dominant presentation of renal cell carcinoma which is present in 90% of the cases, whereas the classical diagnostic triad of hematuria, flank pain and palpable abdominal mass, though it is very classical diagnostic feature of RCC, but it is only present in 10% of the cases. And third important feature of renal cell carcinoma presentation is paraneoplastic syndrome. So what is paraneoplastic syndrome? They are defined as clinical syndromes involving non-metastatic systemic effects that accompany the malignant disease. These syndromes are collection of symptoms that result from substances produced by the tumor and they occur remotely from the tumor itself. The symptoms may be endocrine, neuromuscular or musculoskeletal, cardiovascular, cutaneous, hematologic, gastrointestinal, renal or other miscellaneous in nature. The examples are hypercalcemia, erythrocytosis, non-metastatic hepatic dysfunction, that is called Stopper syndrome, polyneuropathy, polyneuromyopathy, amyloidosis, anemia, fever, cachexia, weight loss, dermatomyositis, increased erythrocyte sedimentation rate, hypertension are all also associated with renal cell carcinoma. I want you to tell me any indication of paraneoplastic condition in the present case. Yes, you can see the PCV, the packed cell volume usually in normal individuals is around 42 to 45%, but here it is 60%. So this indicates erythrocytosis. So the PCV of 60% indicating erythrocytosis, which is one of the paraneoplastic syndrome. I want a few words on role of renal biopsy. In acute renal failure, the biopsy is reserved for patients in whom the pre-renal and post-renal acute renal failure have been excluded, and the causes of intrinsic renal failure is not clear. So it has to be done to know the etiology of the intrinsic acute renal failure, especially when the patient comes with proteinuria. It is useful when the clinical and lab investigations suggest the diagnosis other than ischemic or nephrotoxic injury that respond to the disease specific therapy, like in glomerulonephritis, vasculitis, allergic interstitial nephritis. All the treatment are different, and hence biopsy is necessary. However, in chronic renal failure, because of the bilateral small kidney, biopsy is not advised because technically it is very difficult and there is tendency of bleeding and other adverse consequences can occur. Because of this scarring, the underlying diseases may not also be very apparent on the renal biopsy. And also the window opportunity for therapy has passed in these patients. A few words on the new biomarkers to detect acute kidney injury is these are the following molecules which are present: kidney injury molecule 1, neutrophil, gelatinase, associated lipocalin, interleukin 18, urine cystatin C, and fatty acid binding protein. These urinary markers are produced by the kidney as a result of injury, and they may be filtered by glomerulus, but they are not absorbed by tubule because of injury to the tubule, and hence they appear in the urine. The advantage over conventional markers of serum creatinine and urea is their level increase long before any change can occur in the serum creatinine and BUN. So, any questions? Thank you.